Well, if you're on the right, then you know that the phrase, "this is why we lose," has become something of a cliche these days. Anytime anyone on our side does anything we don't like, we're bound to declare, "this is why we lose," as if that person is now a symbol for America's cultural decline. And in many cases, the "this is why we lose" charge can be off base, or at least overwrought and overstated. But not always. And so today we begin with an actual case of "this is why we lose." So over the past few days, there has been, seemingly out of nowhere, a full court press by some on the right to rehabilitate Bud Light and to convince conservatives to drop the boycott of the company. Now, we know that some notable figures on this side of the aisle were never on board with the boycott in the first place. Famously, Donald Trump Jr. defended the beer maker from the very beginning, saying that Bud Light is on our side despite appearances and we shouldn't punish them for their brief foray into trans propaganda. But Trump Jr. and others in that orbit were alone originally in their pro-Bud Light stance, at least for many months, until just now. This week, both UFC President Dana White and Kid Rock have both appeared in interviews with Tucker Carlson to declare that they have renewed support for Bud Light. And some other prominent voices like Tim Pool have come out to defend that position. Now, in fairness to those guys, we're going to go through these clips one by one so that you can hear their arguments for yourself before I explain why they're totally wrong. But first, here's Dana White. Listen.
If you consider yourself a patriot, right? You're a patriot. You should be drinking gallons of Bud Light. Believe me when I tell you.
Wait. I should be boycotting Bud Light.
Gallons of Bud Light. You should have Bud Light drums stacked up in your garage and drinking it right out of the keg. They are way more aligned with you than most of these other beer companies are. That I guarantee you. Take it from somebody who's in the know, who does business with beer companies. You are way more aligned with Bud Light than you are with any other beer company.
I mean, they didn't come into partnership with you by accident.
No.
Obviously.
We had multiple bidders on the table.
Did they seek you out?
We had multiple bidders on the table. They were one of them. And as history has shown me with relationships that I've had with other beer companies, I, who lean more this way, I, who consider myself a patriot, I don't go crazy over the whole patriot thing, but I consider myself a proud American. I'm happy to be an American. I love this country. And you are way more aligned with Anheuser-Busch than you are with other beer companies.
Now, I'll have plenty to say about the thrust of Dana's arguments after we play all the clips, but I do want to point out one thing right away. Bud Light is a brand owned by a foreign conglomerate. So putting everything else aside, it's very hard to make the case that it's patriotic to support a foreign company. Now, I'm not saying that we can't support foreign-owned brands. After all, that's most brands. I'm just saying that it's hard to cast your support for a Belgian multinational corporation as patriotic. But we'll get back to Dana's point in a moment. First, here's Kid Rock, also with Tucker a day later, agreeing with Dana and echoing a lot of the same sentiments. Watch.
I think it could be. I think they got some work still to get, some of that base that they lost. I think to get them back. Like, I've said a few times, I'd love to see them get triple fratty. Yeah. They've ever been. Like, hit it head on, kind of make light of the situation, self-deprecation, But, at the end of the day, when you step back and look at it, they deserved a black eye and they got one. They made a mistake.
How did you know you moved so fast on that? I mean, a lot of things going on.
It was like a lot of people just pissed me off. I keep a lot of beer on the property, a lot of light beer. Bud Light was one of them. And I was like, I know who my consumers are. Yes. So I was just doing a little marketing to my folks. It was spot on for me, but also a fun excuse to get my machine gun out and have some fun, but also to make a statement like, hey, a lot of us aren't cool with this. I believe a lot of people fought and died for people's right to be whoever they want. But when you're that type of brand, you know who your consumers are. How this kind of started, I think. What I thought about it is they moved part of their corporate offices from St. Louis to New York City.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Then they start hiring these Ivy League progressive, people to work for them who don't know about working class people or middle America in this country.
Unhappy women, yeah.
And so somebody wasn't watching the hen house. They're riding high and mighty as number one, and a fox gets in. Yes, it was a mistake. So do I want to hold their head underwater and drown them because they made a mistake? No, I think they got the message. Like, hopefully other companies get it too. But, at the end of the day, I don't think the punishment that they've been getting at this point fits the crime. It's like, I would like to see people get us back on board and become bigger, because that's the America I want to live in.
Now, many people, myself certainly included, have found that Kid Rock's reasoning here is less than compelling, but Tim Pool thinks that we're all missing the point, and here's the way that he sees it. Listen.
We find ourselves at a crossroads. Do we lament Kid Rock and Dana White in their support for Bud Light? I mean, Kid Rock coming out and saying this, he's effectively ending the boycott, at least as it pertains to him, not to you. And my position, we talked about this in great deal yesterday, is that we should take a PR victory, declare victory, and that's it. We won. But there are many people who are calling for the destruction of Bud Light as a brand. They say never again. Others say, I will drink a Bud Light, but only when they apologize. Now, my argument, I would say, is substantially more tactful and less emotionally satisfying. But I agree with Kid Rock and I agree with Dana White. But more importantly, I agree with Sean Strickland. The big move came when Dana White accepted a massive sponsorship deal from Bud Light to the tune of $105 million. Many of us were very upset about this. We said, why are you accepting money from this company that got woke, went broke, and continues to sponsor Pride events? Well, of course, Dana White said, we're going to take the money. It's the best deal ever, blah, blah, blah. Sean Strickland, MMA champion, said, Bud Light is now sponsoring everything I say. And then he went off to say a whole bunch of anti-woke things. And I like it. I think he's right. At first, I thought he was wrong. I thought these people were all selling out. But then I listened to what Sean had to say, and I realized he flipped the script. He inverted the narrative on Bud Light, and Bud Light has not condemned him. And that is, my friends, a tremendous victory.
Okay, now before I explain why this is all horribly wrong, let me begin by stipulating that I like all these guys. I like Dana White, Kid Rock. Tim Pool's show is great. I like him personally. I'm obviously a huge fan and supporter of Tucker Carlson. I think he's one of the most important voices in the country right now. But the Bud Light boycott is still on. And let me explain why. Bud Light, the foreign-owned brand, tried to push trans ideology. It spat in the face of its own customers. And for once in our lives, for once ever in modern American history, conservatives fought back in an organized, competent, effective way. We organized a boycott. We stuck with it. We actually made the woke company feel the pain. We imposed our will in a way that conservatives have never been able to do ever. The Bud Light boycott is by far, and it's not close, the most effective conservative boycott of a major company ever, of all time. There isn't even a close second. What's second place? There isn't a second place. In fact, I think it's fair to say that it's not just the most effective, but actually the only successful boycott we have ever staged. The holidays are rapidly approaching, but we can find peace and calm in the craziness of the season with Hallow, the #1 Christian prayer app in the world. Immerse yourself in Christmas and Advent prayers, meditations, and peaceful Christian music. Hallow also offers an extensive library of Bible reading plans accompanied by insightful reflections and audio-guided meditations. Whether you're a seasoned Bible reader or just starting your journey, Hallow provides a platform for you to engage with Scripture like never before. A great place to start is with Father Mike Schmitz's Bible in a Year, in which he offers brief daily readings and reflections available on the Hallow app. Hallow app also helps you connect with a community of like-minded individuals sharing experiences, insights, and encouragement along the path to spiritual growth. This Christmas, join Hallow's Christmas Prayer Challenge, Advent with C.S. Lewis. For the 25 days leading up to Christmas, you can focus on the real reason for the season with prayer, meditation, and Christmas music on Hallow. Download the app for free at hallow.com/Matt Walsh for 3 months free. That's hallow.com/Matt Walsh. So we'd have to have a very compelling strategic reason to end this one single successful boycott campaign ever. We would have to have extracted some kind of major concession. But what concession have they made? They gave Dana White $100 million. So what? That's not a concession. That's not an apology. That's a marketing ploy. Are we going to end the Bud Light boycott and start giving them our money because we like their new marketing plan? That would not be us ending a boycott victoriously. That would be a retreat. It would be the very definition of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Something that the right does very often, but never as egregiously empathetic as this. And by the way, if they gave $100 million to like some kind of D-trans fund, that would be one thing. But why would giving $100 million to Dana White, why would we consider that to be sufficient? Oh, you push trans ideology and we're mad at you for that. But you gave $100 million to the guy who owns UFC. So therefore, it's okay. What? What's even the connection? Dana White is not a victim of trans ideology. He's not affected by it. If you give $100 million to the actual victims of this insidious, insane, depraved ideology that you were pushing, give them $100 million, then I would say, yeah, okay, that's an apology. A big one. Giving it to UFC? Who gives a damn? Why would that matter to us? Why would we find that to be an acceptable substitute? Now, I do agree that any boycott campaign, with any boycott campaign, you need to give companies an out. You have to give them a way to get back into your good graces. The whole point of a boycott is that you're withholding support in order to extract some kind of concession. So at least in theory, there should be like something that they can do that would make you not mad anymore. And if you get the concession, then you win. And if you don't get the concession and the company is just destroyed, then you win that way too. And so far, we're winning the second way. Bud Light betrayed its customers. It has not conceded defeat. It has not apologized at all. And so at this point, the entire company is basically in shambles. So be it. What can Bud Light do to get out of this? What is their out? Well, they would need to apologize for pushing transgenderism. They would need to apologize specifically and explicitly. They would need to grovel at our feet in humiliating fashion and disavow gender ideology entirely. Okay, they would need to say, we are sorry for pushing trans ideology. We shouldn't have done it. It's a terrible thing. Please forgive us. That's what they would have to do. They have not done that. They refuse to do that. Instead, they're hoping that they can simply change the subject. But a change of subject is not a concession. It's not an apology. It's a trick, a gimmick, a diversion tactic. If we fall for it, then we deserve to lose. We deserve everything that's coming. Here's the point. If you're boycotting a company and demanding some kind of concession, and you don't get the concession, and then you back down anyway, you lose. You have taken your victory and traded it in exchange for a defeat. You have said, no thanks, I'd rather not win. I'll take a loss instead. That's what it would be to start supporting Bud Light now. They haven't apologized. They haven't conceded. So screw them. Let them wither and die. Let their brand destroy itself. Let it burn. I don't care. Well, what are we feeling sorry for them? Oh, but I feel so bad for that poor multinational foreign conglomerate. No, I don't. They get what they've chosen. It's what they've chosen. It's what they get. Unless we decide to bail them out because we don't have the stomach to fight the culture war like wars need to be fought. This is part of the pitch from guys like Dana White and Kid Rock. Seems to be a call for some sort of weird sort of mercy. And I've even seen some on the right arguing that we're called as Christians to forgive Bud Light for their transgressions. And yes, that's an actual argument I've seen from more than one person. But fighting back against culture rot, fighting back against the people who are deliberately injecting perversion and moral insanity into our culture, fighting against the corporate overlords behind all of this, okay, that's not a time for mercy. These are not homeless, starving people on the street who need a helping hand. They are mega billion-dollar corporations who are selling degeneracy for profit. And if you manage to get your foot on one of their necks, you keep it there. You have no mercy until they grovel and beg and do exactly what you demand that they do. Just like the left. That's how the left responds in situations like this. And again, if we are not willing to do that, if we are not willing to be ruthless, if we will allow ourselves to be paid off then there's no hope. I mean, we'll never win this war, and we won't deserve to win it anyway. Keep in mind that the significance of the Bud Light boycott and the whole strategy behind it is that we have made this company into a cautionary tale. You know, the whole point was to put its head on a spike on the edge of town as a warning to others. It's a trophy for the mantle. We want to show corporate America that this is what we will do. This is what we are capable of doing and willing to do if you spit in our face the way that Bud Light did. But if we just put a dent in their sales for a couple of quarters, get no apology or concession at all, and then go back to supporting them, we'll have taken their head off of the spike and put our own on it instead. Because we will have sent a very different kind of message to corporate America. We will have shown them that we're not willing to go for the kill shot. That ultimately we'll always come crawling back pathetically with our tails between our legs. That ultimately all we care about is, more than anything, is being consumers. And we'll always be loyal, trained puppies as consumers. We'll always come back. We'll always come back to the feeding bowl. But what's happening now is even worse. Because this is not just an effort to end the Bud Light boycott. This is an effort to actively rehabilitate their brand for them. Because the truth is that, the boycott, this is not really even a boycott anymore. It's worse than that for Bud Light. The problem has metastasized. We didn't just boycott the company, we rebranded it. So the brand itself now is seen as lame, effeminate, embarrassing. Even people who don't care about the boycott or are only dimly aware of it, even they avoid drinking Bud Light just because they don't want to get made fun of by their friends. That's why Bud Light is in such a dire situation. So even if we officially ended the boycott, it wouldn't necessarily matter because the brand is lame now. Customers don't want to be associated with it. Which means that to really end the boycott, we would have to revitalize and repair Bud Light's brand for them, which is what the Dana Whites and Kid Rocks of the world seem to be trying to do. So this is like declaring victory in a war, accepting your enemy's surrender, and then proceeding to give them back all the land you gained. You're not just ending the war in that case, you are actively forfeiting your own gains. You aren't just letting your enemy bow out. You're helping them repair the damage they caused themselves. Why would we do that? Why should we? What do we gain? I know UFC gains $100 million, good for them. But what about the rest of us? What about the movement? What about the culture? What do we get out of this mercy? All the conservatives I see online, and there's plenty of them, who are saying, oh no, they gave $100 million to UFC. What the hell do you get out of that? What does your family get out of it? What about your children? That's what this is really about, isn't it? The people that are pushing this insanity onto a culture that our children have to live in? Does that become better now because UFC got some money? What the hell is wrong with you? Have some self-respect. And on top of it all, you know what? It has to be said, Bud Light sucks anyway. It's a bad product. It tastes like stale rainwater scooped out of a murky puddle on the pavement. This is not just the most effective conservative boycott in history, it's also the easiest. Because nobody with functioning taste buds has any desire to drink that sludge anyway. So that's what it comes down to. We can do what is effective, what is right, and also what is at the very same time easy, which is to not drink this. Or we can go out of our way to kneecap ourselves and turn an easy victory into a laborious, cumbersome defeat. Those are your options. And really, you should not have any trouble making the right choice here. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.